for pre-need funerals, burials, and cremation since 1975. Curtis & Son Funeral Home, Sylacauga, Childersburg. Jerry J. Williamson, age 74, of Sylacauga, died Monday at his residence. Graveside service for Mr. Williamson will be today at 11 a.m. from Tallahatchie Cemetery in Sylacauga. Reverend Mark Deason will officiate the service. Online condolences at curtisonfh.com. Curtis & Son Funeral Home, North Chapel, directing. Lucky Northcutt died this morning at his residence. Curtis & Son Funeral Home announcing. Mr. Rodney Allred died at Grandview Medical Center on Tuesday. Curtis & Son Funeral Home will announce the arrangements. In other obituary news this morning, Mr. Hubert Gentry passed away over the weekend, and his service visitation will be tonight, 5 till 8 at the North Chapel at Curtis & Son, and the service will be at 1 o'clock on Thursday at Curtis & Son North, burial in the Mount Olive Cemetery in Talladega. Curtis & Son Funeral Home, North Chapel, directing. And graveside service for Ella Hutto will be 1 o'clock on Thursday at Childersburg Chapel at Curtis & Son Funeral Home. Actually, the visitation is at Childersburg Chapel at 1 o'clock, and the service is at 2, graveside service in Old Childersburg Cemetery. Curtis & Son Funeral Home, Childersburg Chapel, in charge of the arrangements. Remembering the life of Mr. Cecil Paul Adair Jr., age 21, of Talladega. That service will be held Thursday at 1:30 at S.M. Goodson Funeral Home Chapel, with Pastor Clarence Henderson officiating. Kenneth Stouts will be delivering the words of comfort. Public viewing for Mr. Adair is today from 1 until 6 at the funeral home. S.M. Goodson Funeral Home, Talladega, directing. Deborah Beavers, age 69, died December 25th. Funeral arrangement to be announced by Terry's Metropolitan Mortuary. Online condolences at terrysmortuary.com. Celebration of life for Miss Leslie Green, age 51, of Talladega, is today at 1 p.m. from Pine Grove Baptist Church Cemetery in Lincoln. Pastor James Collins officiating. S.M. Goodson Funeral Home in Talladega in charge of the arrangements. Also, remembering the life of Mr. Reginald Tyrone Spell, age 63, of Talladega. That service Thursday at noon from S.M. Goodson Funeral Home Chapel, with the Reverend Hardy Reynolds officiating. Interment in the Lane Chapel CME Church Cemetery. Public viewing today from 1 until 6 at the funeral home. S.M. Goodson Funeral Home directing. Funeral arrangements for Mr. Marte LaShawn Bradford, age 43, of Goodwater, has been set. The station is Friday from 4 until 7 at the funeral home. The station will be at the Pleasant Home Baptist Church in Goodwater at noon until service time at 2:30 on Thursday. Funeral services are private, family only, entrusted to Armour's Memorial Funeral Home, Alexander City. Funeral service for Mr. Kenneth Lee Maxwell, age 58, of Alexander City, is private. The station, however, will be Friday at the funeral home from 4 until 7. Armour's Memorial Funeral Home, Alexander City, in charge of the arrangements. And Barbara Jean Wilson, age 83, of Sylacauga, died on Tuesday at her residence. Radley Smith Funeral Home in Sylacauga, in charge of the arrangements. This obituary report this morning brought to you by Curtis & Son Funeral Home, the North Chapel on Highway 21 in Sylacauga, and the Childersburg Chapel on Highway 280 in Childersburg. For pre-need funerals, burials, and cremation since 1975, Curtis & Son Funeral Home, Sylacauga, Childersburg.